Taking a critical look into the situation R. Kelly is currently dealing with will reveal a systematic attack onto his finances, with the aim of leaving him swamped in debt beyond the possibility of recovery, such that even when he finally leaves prison, he will not have the financial muscle to effectively torch into the illegal operations that government, SONY, the Bureau of Prisons and Department of Justice engaged in to ruin his career, sending his 30 years of hard work down the drain. Their target is to silence him, and to silence him for the rest of his life. At the beginning of R. Kelly's latest ordeals, we saw the Me Too movement take to the streets of New York City and to SONY headquarters carrying banners and singing "Mute R. Kelly." Among these were young women and men, all pretending to know who R. Kelly is, despite the generational rift that places all of them in a disadvantaged position when it comes to understanding the ways of the R&B king. The hired team was singing "Mute R. Kelly" all the way, and pretending to blame their employer SONY for enabling him, something the government did not mention anywhere in their indictment. Any naive person who watched this pretentious demonstration could easily think the call to mute R. Kelly was to protect young women they claim he slept with in circumstances they could not even prove in court. Well, this was SONY's first step towards running R. Kelly bankrupt. With R. Kelly's music muted, for a man that dedicated his whole life to nothing else but singing and writing songs for others, he has no way around bankruptcy if his music is muted. SONY's strategy of bankrupting its enemies stems from decades back as a way of rendering them powerless and unable to cause any serious damage to the corporation, while they maintain their supremacy and sign in new artists that do not have the slightest of ideas what this evil company is all about. They did this to Michael Jackson before they finally finished him off for an easier bargain with his family, which, bankrupt as it was, saw the children quickly accept SONY's offer of only $500 million in exchange for a large part of SONY's stake that belonged to Michael, and the rights over his music catalog that until today performs like he was still alive. A bankrupted family without their breadwinner definitely lacked negotiating power, and like that, SONY found its way against the Jackson family. Lately we are hearing that R. Kelly's SONY royalties are now under threat and at risk of being hijacked by government as compensation for the alleged victims, irrespective of the fact that many were found to have lied in court about their ages when they met with the R&B king, and others about their involvement with him, and more. There is still a dilemma as to who between R. Kelly and the alleged victims enticed the other, considering R. Kelly was charged with enticement charges, and yet it's on record in the trial transcript that it was the parents to these women who were pushing and advocating for them to go be with him. The government may have succeeded in getting witnesses to take the stand and testify on their behalf through a series of witness tampering scenarios, but when it came to them proving that R. Kelly indeed committed the alleged offenses, they failed rather miserably for a lack of evidence. All they had were stories told by the very non-credible witnesses who were later found to have lied about almost everything. We wouldn't blame the people who are finding a lot of difficulty understanding why the government would choose to team up with individuals who have repeatedly lied under oath, an act that is categorized as illegal and punishable by law with up to 5 years in prison. This matter has been ignored, and one may think these women were saints, but records show otherwise. Lisa Van Allen, for example, started off lying in court and under oath against R. Kelly as early as back in 2008, when she took the stand for the first time in an attempt to have him locked up on similar charges as was in Chicago's latest trial. It is at this 2008 trial that her "I was 17 years old" story began, and she confidently returned with the very same lie to the New York and Chicago courts during the recent trials. Why the government would team up with such an enemy of justice all in the name of taking down the R&B king is not only bewildering but also unacceptable by law. Lisa Van Allen is in fact the one who is guilty of obstruction of justice, another false accusation that R. Kelly and his co-accused were duly acquitted for. Another strange alliance that has left the world shaken and trying to figure out what could be wrong with our government and justice system is that between the prosecution and the Claras. It has left everyone wondering just how much the government wanted R. Kelly down and bankrupted, that they thought teaming up with a family of con artists would be a good strategy. A family where parents are more than ready to solicit their own daughter with the hope of getting their hands into a celebrity's bank account. Their daughter confessed to this on the first Gayle King interview and we all listened, but the government and DOJ ignored all this. Instead, they teamed up with greedy vloggers Tasha K and some allies in the Bureau of Prisons to leak important restricted R. Kelly communications that would later be used in witness tampering to win the Clary daughter over to the government's side. It's no wonder that she is receiving the lion's share of the restitutions the government once settled with R. Kelly's royalties. For God's sake, there is verified text message evidence to prove that the Clary family together with their daughter were all along lying when they claimed R. Kelly knowingly slept with underage Azriel against their will and without their knowledge, only to find out later that it was all a trap by the Clares to get the R&B king as their son-in-law, one they would eventually blackmail to give them money whenever they pleased and to the amounts they dictated. Alice Clary did take the initiative herself to message R. Kelly pretending to be the daughter and leading him on, and also messaged Azriel coaching her on how to seduce the R&B king. This clearly shows it was the Clares that technically enticed the R&B king and not the other way round, and that it was her mother that pushed her into traveling to California to be with R. Kelly and again, not the other way round. Why Robert would still be found guilty for Mann Act violation when it was clearly not him advocating for Azriel's travel but her mother, a factor that shows he had no pre-planned arrangements to expose her to an STD as alleged, is hard to explain. The weirdest of all these events was these perpetual under-oath liars such as Lisa Van Allen being granted endless and unconditional immunities to help the government in their takedown scheme. The usual condition for immunity is to tell the truth, nothing else but the truth. However, she and her colleagues continued to lie under oath and take the U.S. Honorable Court for granted. Nevertheless, her testimony was upheld and she was again invited into the Chicago court to again lie on R. Kelly for the third time under oath since 2008. It's a shame to learn that it is for such non-credible witnesses that the U.S. government is now seeking to have R. Kelly's royalties hijacked, and the benefits used to compensate these women. It is unfortunate to see our government play along with large corporations like SONY which seek to destroy their signed artists when they grow big and develop wings to fly on their own. While it's okay for us to struggle in life and make it the hard way and have to deal with greedy companies that seek to exploit us, it's more than painful when it is our government to which we pay the tax, and the very leaders we elected into positions that matter that are right behind such evil companies. The government is only helping the enemies of R. Kelly to implement their bankrupt and defraud strategy against our own Robert Sylvester Kelly. It's a shame. Thank you for watching today's video, a production of LFN Media, giving you another perspective of issues at hand. We make it our business to keep you updated with the truth amidst the cloud of lies the media wants you to believe. It is therefore important to subscribe to this channel, hit the bell icon and allow all notifications so that you don't miss out whenever we publish a new video.